Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a fascinating exploration of how we physically communicate with God. We're going to completely deconstruct what a lot of us thought we knew about the physical act of prayer. You see, the Bible gives us tons of examples of how people prayed, but surprisingly few strict commands about exactly how our bodies need to be positioned. So we're going to unpack the rich language of the human body and discover what our posture actually communicates. Let's get into it.
Let's kick things off by challenging a deeply held childhood assumption. Did God actually command folded hands and closed eyes? For a lot of us, this was literally the very first thing we learned to do as kids, right? Fold your hands, close your eyes, bow your head. But what if I told you that you won't find a single command for that specific combination anywhere in the biblical texts? Not one. We're going to unpack where those traditions actually came from and, more importantly, what the ancient texts emphasize instead.
Which brings us to Section 1, Posture of the Heart. Before we even look at our hands, or eyes, or knees, there's an absolutely crucial core principle we need to get our heads around. The body does not create reverence, but it often reveals it. Because God created us as embodied beings, His ultimate gaze pierces right through our physical form. Your physical posture isn't some magic spell, but it's not a meaningless ritual either. Instead, it's a profoundly expressive language. Just like a smile reveals joy or tears reveal grief, your physical position in prayer is an outward expression of your inward attitude. The physical act itself never earns favor, but it allows the body to agree with what the heart already believes.
Moving right along to Section 2, the truth about hands.
Historically, there's a super fascinating contrast here. You know those folded hands we all learned about? Well, they actually originated during the Middle Ages, under feudalism. When a vassal pledged loyalty to his king, he placed his hands together, and the king enclosed them with his own as a symbol of submission. Christians eventually adopted this beautiful gesture. But by contrast, the biblical texts repeatedly emphasize the lifting of pure, open hands. The Apostle Paul writes, "I desire, therefore, that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hands." You see, the emphasis wasn't on the position, it was on the purity. Our hands represent our actions, basically what we work, fight, and serve with.
So why raise them? That upward gesture is vital because lifting open hands physically communicates four distinct, really powerful acts of spiritual surrender, all at the exact same time. First up is dependence. Just like a toddler reaching up to a parent, it says, "I can't reach you, you have to reach me." Second is surrender, kind of like a soldier giving up resistance. Third is worship, which is a recognition of greatness, not just, emotional excitement. And fourth is receiving. Think about it. An empty, open hand is ready to receive a blessing, but a tightly clenched fist, it absolutely cannot.
All right, let's head into Section 3, Eyes, Heads, and Heaven.
So if folding our hands was a medieval invention, what about tightly shutting our eyes? Well, believe it or not, the Bible never actually commands closing our eyes in prayer. I know, crazy, right? Now, closing our eyes is incredibly practical wisdom for blocking out distractions and helping us concentrate. There is totally genuine wisdom in it. But ancient Jews and even Jesus himself frequently prayed with their eyes wide open. In John 17, it says, Jesus lifted up his eyes to heaven. Ancient people gazed upward, not because heaven was physically just up there in the clouds, but because the upward gaze expressed hope, expectation, and absolute dependence on God's throne.
On the flip side, a bowed head is defined as a physical lowering of oneself before one who is infinitely greater. When we bow our heads, just like historical figures like Abraham's servant, Moses, and Nehemiah did, we're using our bodies to acknowledge our lowliness. It's the exact opposite of pride. The prophet Isaiah actually contrasts the proud, who stubbornly lift their own heads, with the humble, who willingly bow before God.
That takes us into Section 4, kneeling, standing, and falling.
Now, standing actually surprises a lot of modern readers, but it was one of the most common Jewish prayer positions. Jesus even said, "When you stand praying." It symbolizes readiness, alertness, and immense respect, kind of like the way a servant stands attention before a monarch. But kneeling holds a uniquely special weight. In ancient Hebrew thought, kneeling confessed, "You are king, I am not." It willingly does today what the Apostle Paul says every knee in the universe will eventually do universally.
Ancient Jewish holistic thinking maps this out just perfectly. Unlike modern Westerners who often sharply divide the body and the soul, ancient Hebrews didn't separate them at all. They let the physical body articulate the exact state of the heart. If they were joyful, they danced. If they were repentant, they fasted. So, eyes looking up meant expectation.
Knees bowing meant submission. Placing the face in the dust meant utter dependence, basically acknowledging I have absolutely nothing to boast of. The physical expression naturally flowed right out of the inner reality. And that brings us to prostration, falling face to the ground. This is the deepest possible expression of worship. When humans in the biblical texts, including Joshua, Ezekiel, John in Revelation, and Jesus himself in the Garden of Gethsemane, encountered extraordinary manifestations of God, they fell flat on their faces. They didn't do it because someone handed them a rule book. No way! They did it because the sheer weight of holiness completely overwhelmed them, prompting complete physical and spiritual surrender. Which leads perfectly into Section 5, a beautiful biblical pattern. There's a really clear progression that builds throughout the ancient texts. Think of it like this. Step 1, open hands ready to receive. Step 2, lifted eyes full of hope. Step 3, a bowed head showing humility. Step 4, bent knees confessing God's kingship. And finally, Step 5, a broken heart. From the hands right down to the knees, every single physical action culminates in the absolute necessity of Step 5. Without that broken, contrite heart, the first 4 steps are entirely meaningless.
That crucial point is captured perfectly in 1 Samuel 16:7. The Lord looks on the heart. A perfect prayer posture is completely empty hypocrisy if it isn't matched by an obedient, contrite, and sincerely devoted heart. The source texts warn over and over about people who draw near with their mouths but keep their hearts far away. You can kneel perfectly while thinking about tomorrow's grocery list, or you can stand at a bus stop totally overwhelmed with love for God. God hears the sincerity, not the geometry of your joints.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely vital question. What is your heart doing? As you go about your day, whether you're standing in a crowded room, driving your car, or lying awake at night, ask yourself this ultimate question about the true posture of your soul. Are your spiritual hands open to His will? Is your internal gaze fixed on His promises? Because when the heart is right, whatever posture your body takes becomes a beautiful, living testimony of the worship already happening within. Think about that the next time you approach the throne.